my name is Peter West, and today we're going to do an intro video to InControl. And so I'm going to make this a multi-part series where part one is going to be the introduction to InControl, navigating InControl, and general overview of features and reports. So when you log into InControl, if you're first time logging in, you're going to go to your name in the top right-hand corner. Here you can see all your login attempts, your name, your language, you can change your password, and most importantly, you can enable two-factor authentication. Highly recommend this. You can also enable how you receive emails. So you can click on this and you can see service expiration notifications, notices, notifications, and report emailing. So if you don't want to receive these things, you can uncheck them or check them. Application control for API and client applications for API out, stuff like that is all done from your user profile. I'll hit back. InControl is broken up into 3 tiers. You have the organization level. This is going to be a dark orange. Then you're going to have a group level, which is going to be kind of a yellow. And then you're going to have so if I go into a group, you'll see that all my icons change to this kind of a cream color. And then if I go into a device tier or level, you'll see all the notifications are white. So you can see right here, white is device, this cream color is the group, and the orange is the organization. Depending on your permissions, you might not have access to an organization level, or you might only have access to a group level. And we'll go over that in a second. So at the organization level, you'll have a list of all your groups. You'll have the GPS mapping or location of all the devices in all of those groups. And then you can organize that map by device name, product name. You can hide the label altogether. You can view it in full screen, or you can even save a view. Additionally, InControl has a feedback option right here. This allows you to report bugs or feature requests right to Peplink Engineering, and I highly recommend utilizing that. So, for example, if I wanted to be able to show a multi-date view in the GPS, I could click on this feedback button, and then I could give it a title, show date range in GPS view on map, give a description. I'd like to see the GPS location by date range in the maps. Send feedback, and that will get reported to Peplink Engineering so that they can take that into advisement for future firmware and patch releases. So in the organization view, we also have organization reports, and you can see that's just SIM card reports is in the organization. This allows you to manage all the SIM cards and all the organizations or all the groups that are in all the devices in your entire organization. This allows you to create device SIM cards. So if you wanted to search for a particular SIM card, like for example, here's an ICCID, and then I can search for this ICCID and find this ICCID and what device it's in and what carrier it's on and what it's being used for. And so if you're looking for the ICCID or mobile telephone number and where it might be in your organization, you can use the devices and SIM cards to find those. So you can also create SIM pools, which allows you to manage groups of SIM cards and their data utilization. And then you can manage all of your carrier pools by each carrier individually right here. Next, we have our SpeedFusion. SpeedFusion can be managed either on the group level or the organization level, but not both. So once you configure SpeedFusion on the organization level, any groups that are members of organization-based configuration will no longer be capable. So this is really good if you have a parent organization with a lot of branch offices and you want to create SpeedFusion tunnels between groups of devices. And then under organization settings, we have device management. We can create new groups. We have group management, lets you manage your groups. So like, for example, I can click group management, select on this group and delete the group. Or I've created a video here, but if you go to device group management, click on a group, you can also click move to new organization and actually spin off a group into its own organization, copying all of those settings. And I've already created that YouTube video. You can go report emailing. lets you know, sets additional, how often do you want to receive usage reports. Firmware policy is organization-based firmware policies. This lets you manage all of the firmware for all of the groups in your organization. Additionally, if you click the show beta firmware, you can actually agree to the terms and then push out beta firmware to devices as well. Once again, I don't necessarily recommend that on the organization level for beta firmware, but for regular firmware, if you want to make sure you're standardizing on a particular latest firmware, like 8.2.1, you make sure all the groups are utilizing that, or all the devices are utilizing the same firmware across your organization. Operation log allows you to see everything that's happening operational within all the groups within your environment. So you can see all the changes that Peter West is doing to the network right there. Organization settings allows you to centrally manage users that have access. You can set up idle timeouts. So for PCI compliance and things like that, you can set up a timeout that forces a logout. Two-factor authentication, you can force two-factor authentication for an organization. You can do not accept users to authenticate with Google, so you can force Peplink ID with your organization. Allow users allowed to make OAuth 2 based API calls, so you can allow OAuth 2 based API calls. You can block Peplink's support from accessing your organization. We have some advanced options here. You can customize your logo. You can customize the organization default address. So for example, this is our old West Networks address, so I can move this to the new West Networks address. And now any new groups will be based out of that new address. I can set up my AWS Transit Gateway integration and my FlatAware API settings here. And then my locate device position by cell ID, I can actually put that right here if I want to use Google Maps or if I want to use Unwired Labs. And then I can remove the organization. And so those are your organization settings. And then the last thing is warranty and license. Warranty and license is pretty neat because it gives you a list of all of your devices, their status, and then with their warranty. So if you want to be able to filter by about to expire or show me all my expired devices, you can do that. And then most importantly here, under organization settings, warranty and licenses, this is where you issue Fusion Hub licenses. So if you need to if I wanted to add a Fusion Hub license, I'll add a solo license, hit acquire. Now I can put it in my group. So for example, if I wanted to put a Fusion Hub license in my EPX Synergy group, I could click right there, hit process. It's going to then create this Fusion Hub license that is in my EPX Synergy VLAN group. I hit add. And there's my Fusion Hub license key and my serial number. And now I've added a Fusion Hub license to and so I can click on this. I'm in the group level, click edit. Actually, I'll wait till I get to the group level. So on organization settings, you can then create those Fusion Hub licenses. That's a general overview of the organization level. So now let's go into a group. So we're going to go ahead and go into my MBX HD4 5G. So now I'm in the group level, and you can see here's my device. Now I'm going to have a new menu here, and they're going to be this cream color. And so I know I'm in a group because they're cream colored here. And so now I'm going to get reports based on the group. So I'm going to have device reports, Wi-Fi reports, usage reports, SIM card reports, captive portal dashboard reports, captive portal reports, connection test reports. This is a new feature that allows you to run speed tests on routers on a set interval, and then those reports are logged. My central event log and my tags. So this is going to be based on all the devices in a group. So that's going to be my reporting. Then Speed Fusion, once we're going to have group level Speed Fusion, which allows me to create Speed Fusion tunnels between devices in this group. Then I have my Wi-Fi options. I can set my Wi-Fi SSID settings and my group-wide radio settings. So if I go to group-wide SSID settings, I'll be able to see here's my 5G RV Live SSID. I can create new SSIDs or edit the SSIDs. And then I can go to my group-wide radio settings, which allows me to configure my radio options. So right now, this MBX HD4 is set to Wi-Fi WAN mode. I can also change this to AP mode and change this into Wi-Fi AP mode. So depending on if you want to change the mode of the two radios in the router, from AP to WAN, you can do that right here under the group-wide radio settings. Under network settings, we're going to have outbound policies, firewall rules, grouped networks, access control lists, which are lists of MAC addresses. Grouped networks are lists of IP addresses. VLANs, so I can centrally manage my VLANs. Lan network settings, route to advertisement, captive portals, and then I can configure my connection tests, my speed tests. Clients will give you a list of all the clients connected to the devices in the entire group. So all the devices in the group. Then my settings is my group settings. So I have device management. This lists all the devices in a way that I can run actions against them. So for example, I can check this device, I can assign tags to these devices, or I can enable my actions. So I can move the device to a new group, I can remove the device, I can change the map marker on the device, I can manage firmware on devices by selecting them, I can change the Wi-Fi AP state, I can enable DPI, enable remote assistance, enable hardware watchdog, download diagnostic reports, I can follow another GPS location. This is actually a really cool feature. So to show you that, I'm going to go to my EPX Synergy. I can click edit, which is also the same as clicking device management. You'll see this right here. Boom. I can select my demo EPX, which does not have GPS, actions, follow another device's location, and then I can select one of the HD1 domes that does have GPS and then hit save. So if I said I want these three devices, the EPX and the two switches, actions, follow another device's GPS location, choose one of the HD1 domes and hit save. Now, these three devices, instead of being a fixed address, will follow the HD1 dome's GPS location. So it's a great way to keep your devices grouped together on the map. Add devices, so we can click here to add a device to a group, put in the serial number, give it a tag, you click next, and then you can give it a name. Device IP settings, this is going to require an advanced options where I'll do a whole video on this, but basically you can download a template file and then manage your device LAN IP address settings right here. So if you have 1,000 devices that you need to subnet and manage all their IP addresses, you can do this right from the device IP settings. Device system management. This is where you configure all the system management settings of your devices. So for example, device web admin and command line management. I can turn this on, give my device a Peplink University admin. I can assign a random password to each device, or I can assign a shared password to each device. And so this way, every device that gets added to this group will automatically have the admin name PU admin and the password that I set. I can enable or disable a read-only user account. I can assign a web session timeout. I can download a copy of my admin passwords if I need them access. I can also configure how the devices can be logged on locally. So a local account, radius, or TAC. I can enable CLI and console access. And then once I enable that, I can say, how is this accessible? So I can say only via the LAN, what port is my security SSL or HTTP. Once again, my web admin access, I highly recommend LAN only, what port you're going to use, and then you can actually restrict which VLANs can access the management interface. You can enable logging, like send event logs to remote syslog server. You can do URL logging to a server, session logging to a server. You can enable SNMP right here. You can set your community names right there. You can tell it to automatically update your captive portal default SSL certificate, and then you can also schedule reboots. So the device system management is a pretty powerful capability to make sure all of your devices have the exact same settings. So you're not logging into every single router to make those changes. Hit save because I actually want to do that. That's device system management. InControl Options allows you to control how your devices talk to InControl. So for example, you can check this box to disable device configuration. If you're having an issue where router settings keep resetting and you don't know exactly why, you can disable device configuration to stop InControl from pushing changes to your routers. This allows you to kind of troubleshoot if InControl is pushing a setting that you're not aware of, or if there's another problem on your device. Auto rollback is a really neat feature. What it does is basically if the router, if you push a configuration to a router via InControl, and the router loses access to the internet, after 10 minutes, it'll come back online by reverting to the previous configuration, and it'll have a little red checkbox. I actually have this intentionally set up for you. So here's, I pushed a bad configuration file to my EPX, and which would have taken the router offline. The router was offline for 10 minutes and reverted the change and came back online. So basically what it does is it protects you from pushing the wrong setting to a router and having that unable to be recovered. Auto apply patches, I recommend that you enable this. If InControl realizes there's a configuration mismatch, your router configuration, it'll automatically patch that to match. You can disable firmware management. You can enable low data usage mode. If you're running on IoT platform and want to make sure that you're using as little data as possible, you can check this box, and you can see right here, the router's the estimated base usage is 339 megabits with GPS data and 172 megabits without GPS data. If I enable low data mode, you'll see that that changes to 6.9 megabits with GPS data and 1.3 megabits without GPS data. Disable device reporting will stop it from reporting to InControl. WAN quality data sampling. Currently it's 10 seconds. You can change that to more or less, and it's going to obviously use more or less data. So if I change that to every 5 seconds, you'll see it's going to use more data than if it's every 10 seconds. Disable live status queries, GPS location connection, and minimum communication interval is 28 seconds. Once again, you can change that, and that just updates the communication time. So if I said I want this to update faster, like every 15 seconds, it's going to use a little bit more data, but it will communicate more often and make sure that those devices stay up to date. Notifications. Notifications is really powerful. We have all these event logs and all these data that's coming into InControl. And so now you want to say, well, I need to be notified if there's an event or an error. One, you can make multiple configuration profiles to communicate with different organization groups, business units, or different service levels in your company. Additionally, you can have different notifications based on devices. So all the Peplink devices can be tagged. And so if I go back to my dashboard real fast, let me show you. I can tag this device. So I click edit, check the box for this MBX, tag, and I can say 5G RV Life, hit add. And so I have this tag 5G RV Life. Now I can go to settings, notifications, and I can create, say, show me device notify for any of the following tags, 5G RV Life. I can then say notification, email notification enabled. And I can say, show me when the device is online or offline, or show me only when the device starts up, show me the HA. So I could say, show me when the device starts up. And I could say all organization group admins, all admins, etc. Device starts up. I can show WAN up and down status, SpeedFusion up and down status, IPsec up and down status, bandwidth utilization. So based on bandwidth utilization settings in the report, I can show LAN port up and down, error probe alarm, content hub storage, configuration changes applied. So if you want an email notification, anytime someone hits apply changes, right there, you're going to get that notification. Too many firmware upgrades attempt, SIM card switchover, SIM card insertion, PLMN switchover. So in other words, changing carriers, smart reader attachment, detachment, GPIO events, IoT threshold events, and web admin alerts. So you can create notification based on tags of device and send it to specific groups of people based on your desired communication protocols. Report emailing sends general reporting. So this is device reports, Wi-Fi reports, usage reports, captive portal reports, and connection test reports. You can have it send those monthly, weekly, or daily. So if you want a usage report daily, you can click that. You can select who you want to be received, or just go to a group of email addresses. And every day you'll get usage reports emailed out to you. And so usage reports are different than notifications. Firmware policy is the same as the organization level. It just applies it to the group level. Device schedule. You can actually schedule devices. So for example, if I turn on device schedule, I can create schedules like work hours. hit save, and now I can enable and disable certain policies based on a schedule. So I can make a Wi-Fi SSID that's only available during work hours. So you can create the schedule, you can create multiple schedules and then apply certain configuration file options based on that schedule. Geofencing allows you to apply geofencing tags. So for example, I could say add, and I could say at work, at office. And so I could add a zone, a circular area, office, hit OK. And so I've created this zone called office, and now I can say what I want to do. Do I want to email whenever I enter the zone? Do I want to push something via HTTP? Or I like this one. Disable on leave, enter on it, enable on leave, disable on enter. So I can say disable my Wi-Fi when I enter the zone. So when a vehicle enters in the zone, the Wi-Fi shuts off. Or I can apply a tag, tags to add on entering the zone. So I can say at office. And when I leave the area, I could say on job. So if the vehicle enters the space, it'll say at office. When it leaves, it's going to change the tag to on job. And then I can hit save. At office. On job. There we go. Save. So now, if the GPS is tagging appropriately with this device, hopefully it'll tag that and turn off the Wi-Fi and stuff. So we'll see what happens there. Okay. And then bulk configurator. Say you have 200 of the same exact configuration. You have a BR1 Mini that's putting out an IP address to an IoT device, and you want all the devices to be exactly the same. So what you do is you can download that configuration file, upload it to the bulk configurator. So upload new configuration, apply it to all the BR1 Minis. Basically, every single one of those devices will get the exact same settings. So it's a way of cloning a configuration file if you need to manage that. I don't use this as much anymore because InControl has gotten so powerful. We can manage all the network settings. We can manage the LAN IP settings. We can manage the speed fusion settings and the Wi-Fi settings. So there's only a few things inside these devices that's not configurable anymore via InControl. But if you did want to do that seamlessly, you can use the bulk configurator for that. And then group settings, very similar to organization settings. You'll see your organization users, and then you can add just group users. There's a couple roles. You have group administrator, group viewer, captive portal administrator, captive portal reviewer, group dashboard viewer, which only shows the dashboard, InTouch user, which only allows them access to InTouch, and fleet manager, which only gives them access to the GPS tracking functionalities. You can set your advanced options of whether or not you want to show expiration dates or send warranty subscriptions or display internal device availability on the group dashboard, allow group administrators to remove or move devices, change simple bandwidth. So you have specific policies that they're allowed to do. You can hide password warnings, hide the feedback button, set that default address. So that's the general overview of all the different group options. I'm going to go back now and show you a few of the basic options within the group level as well. So if you go to reports and I go to device reports, this lets me see a 7-day, 31-day or custom overview of all utilization in my group of all devices and all routers. So I can see that I've had sum of daily clients with usage, average number of daily clients with usage, all the clients with usage is 67 gigs, per client data usage about 2 gigs. I can see the top clients by usage, device manufacturers. I can see my clients and usages by day. So this is in my Sprinter van, so it's like when I'm traveling. And then you can see my top devices, which there's only one device, and you can see my HD4 right there. So it's a really neat kind of executive overview of all the devices in your group. Wi-Fi reports allows you to see how the wireless infrastructure is being utilized. Usage reports gives you the ability to track utilization by hourly, daily, monthly, and then by megabytes, gigabytes, or terabytes. You can do all devices. You can do it by specific products or by product tags. SIM card reports allows you to run reports against SIM cards. This is really neat because say you want to know how much data utilization a particular ICCID used from a date range, you could run that report right there. And you can also see all the SIM cards and their utilization. Captive Portal Dashboard allows you to see information about the captive portal and its utilization, as well as the reporting allows you to see how many clients are using it, that the client types. Connection Test Reports is going to give you the port of the connection test results that would be configured under Network Settings Connection Test, which I'll show you in a second. And then Event Logs shows you all the event logs centrally of all of the devices in this group. And so you can search, you can see every system logs, SpeedFusion logs, admin, WAN, LAN, wireless LAN, portal, IPsec, PPTP, L2TP, OpenVPN, IP conflict, MAC conflicts, high availability transitions, DDNS, DHCP, AP controller, Radius, GPIO, InTouch. And so if you want to see what's going on and you're not sure where to start, sometimes the first place to start would be pulling up the event logs and just seeing what's going on. Like you could pull up and say, show me my WAN, and you can see Wi-Fi WAN right there, disconnected and connected. So you can see my Wi-Fi 2 connected, but then it disconnected. So it's probably the signal's too weak for it to stay connected. And then tags, you can manage your tags in this group. SpeedFusion, you can manage your SpeedFusion on the group level here. I'll create a whole video just on SpeedFusion, but for the purposes of this overview, this level 1 overview, it's managed right here. Wi-Fi, once again, it's going to require an entire video, but you can create your Wi-Fi SSIDs right here and manage them. And I'll create a whole topic just on managing Wi-Fi. Network settings, you can manage your outbound policies centrally. You can create outbound policies in a device like advanced outbound policies. I can then configure outbound policies, save this configuration file and import that and then apply it to all the routers. Or I can create a new rule set. So I could say default, and then I can apply that to my 5G RV life, or I can apply that to all balanced routers, and then I can add my rules. And so I can do source, IP address, IP network, MAC address, or grouped network, and then destination, IP address, network domain name, SpeedFusion, VPN, grouped network, and then SAS and region here. These are only configurable in InControl. You can't configure SAS or region as a destination in InControl. That's only configurable in the InControl because those databases are managed by InControl. And then you can choose your protocol, TCP, UDP, DSCP, or IP. And then you have weighted balance, which allows you to control the percentage of packets that are sent over each WAN. Persistence, which sets up persistence once a session is established. Enforced, which forces all traffic out of a particular interface. Priority, which allows you to prioritize interfaces or tunnels. Overflow, which allows you to utilize the bandwidth consumption setting on the WAN and the balanced router, and then have it, but basically if you have two 100 meg pipes, overflow would utilize 1 to 100 megs, and then everything over 100 megs would fail over to the next link or interface. Least used, which will allow you to go over the ones being used the least each new session. Lowest latency, which will calculate the lowest latency to the third hop and then utilize that link. And then fastest response time, which sends out multiple packets, SYN packets, to the destination. Whichever one acknowledges first will be the circuit that's used. All the remaining, those remaining SYN packets or acknowledgements will be discarded by the PEP link. This is my favorite when you're doing like BGP, or if you have too fast internet, like 2 gigabit lines, and you're just load balancing them, fast response time is really nice. When no connection is available, what do you want to do? Fall through the next rule or use any available connection. Outbound policies allows you to configure that. Outbound policies are implemented from top down, and very important, very, very important, the WAN name, if right here, must match. So if you create a rule that says Cellular 1, and then you have an EPX router that doesn't have a Cellular 1 or has a Cellular 111, you might log into your outbound policy and see that policy doesn't apply. And the reason is the WAN, the connection name must match the connection name on the router. I have my connection name Cellular 1, Cellular 2, Cellular 3, Cellular 4. If those were AT&T, T-Mobile, and Verizon, I can make outbound policies based on AT&T. and I actually have policies that say use AT&T first or use Verizon. But the name of the connection must match the name of the policy. So if you create a policy that has a name in it that does not exist on the router, you might see that policy not show up. And it's because the name in the policy doesn't match the name in the router. Firewall rules, very similar to outbound policies. They're managed top down. So once again, what's going to happen when you create a policy in InControl, you can centrally manage that. Peplink has a really good firewall management platform now. So we have the ability to add content blocking, like blocking adware or pornography. You can block like BitTorrent and all these different applications. So for example, you can block MySQL, and then you can customize block domains, exempt domains from being blocked, and exempt user groups from content filtering. On the firewall rules, we have outbound rules, which is anything coming from a LAN or subnet or VLAN or SpeedFusion tunnel to the internet, going out one of your WANs. Inbound is anything from a WAN into your network to LAN, a VLAN, or VPN user group, or SpeedFusion. Internal is between VLANs and SpeedFusion. So if you have a SpeedFusion tunnel and you want to say this group of PCs can only access this group of servers, you could create a grouped network of PCs or an access control list of PC MAC addresses and a grouped network of allowed servers, and you can make an internal rule that says this group of PCs can talk to this group of servers, deny everything else. We have intrusion detection DOS prevention, and then local service firewall rules, which is services that the Peplink router itself provides. Additionally, in the outbound rules, we do allow you to have destination by SAS or region. So you can allow, for example, Zoom, but block, for example, North Korea or something like that. Grouped networks is groups of IP addresses. Access control lists are groups of MAC addresses, and those can be used in outbound policy and firewall rules. VLAN networks allows you to create VLANs and then push them out. So I can create a VLAN called guest Wi-Fi, VLAN 100. I can apply this to balance match with any of the following tags, 5G RV life, or I can say on all devices, but we'll say 5G RV life. And then I could say 172.16.254.1/24, turn off inter VLAN routing because it's a guest network. I can display a captive portal here. And then I can do my DHCP unmanaged, enabled, or disabled. So I can say enabled, first 10 IP addresses, use Google DNS, and then save. And that's actually going to then push that VLAN to my Peplink router. There it is right there. And so now I can use that VLAN for my Wi-Fi or my other network options. So VLAN management's really nice. Lan Network Settings is a relatively new feature to the InControl platform. It allows you to configure all the LAN network settings on a router. You can say, once again, apply this to a 5G RV life. I can set up static routes, and I can manage static routes. I can enable virtual network mapping and do virtual network mapping, which I'll create a whole video on. DNS proxy settings. I can enable my DNS proxy settings. And Bonjour forwarding. I can set up and manage my Bonjour forwarding settings. So this way, if you have multiple devices and they have the same settings and you want to make sure that those settings get applied, you can centrally manage those. If you have different virtual network mapping and different static routes per site, you can just centrally manage this here in InControl and push it down to the router. So you don't have to log into the router to make those LAN network settings. Same thing with route advertisement. You can turn on route advertisement and set up how you're advertising these routes, and that way you're not having to log in to each device to make those changes. So SpeedFusion route VPN route isolation, network advertisement, so I can select on which networks get advertised, and then static route advertising. So once again, it just preventing you from having to log into the device to make those same options. Captive portals, you can create captive portals here. Captive portals managed in InControl are really nice and easy. So for example, I could make a guest captive portal, company name, Peplink University. I could either have social, open access, guest account, token-based, email-based, or SMS. I'm going to do email-based. Hit enable. And here I can say collect guest name. If I can say I don't want to select this everybody and require activation, the system will send an email and they're allowed to open and click an activation link. They get 2 minutes to check their email. The sender name, you could say Peplink University. Sender address, portal at peplinkuniversity.com. No quota. Guests are required to sign in every day after the quota is reset. What the networks are allowed to access. Redirect them, right? So I can say redirect to www.peplinkuniversity.com, and then cache the splash page on devices. And then here I can see preview and customization. So I can preview my portal here. So I could drag my Peplink University logo here, change the colors, change the terms of use. You can see all the different, how it's being set up. Hit save changes. I can go to my VLAN, go to my guest Wi-Fi, and apply this captive portal to this VLAN. Boom, right there, guest, all devices. Hit save. And so now my guest VLAN is getting that captive portal we just created. And so now I could go to group-wide SSID settings, add a new SSID called guest, apply this to some devices, 5G RV Life, open encryption, and then I just select VLAN tagging, select my guest Wi-Fi, and hit save changes. So now I've got this guest network that's automatically being tagged VLAN 100. And because VLAN 100 has the captive portal, it'll then prompt them for the captive portal. And then connection tests. This is a new feature with 8.3. So I click add, and I could just say daily test. And I can say all devices or some devices, primary connection. How do I want to test? My cellular WAN, cellular 1, 2, 3, or 4. Secondary connection, open VPN or none. And I can say run a speed test. And it fails if it's under 10 megabits per second download or 1 megabit per second upload. And then schedule test every day at 8 a.m. So every day at 8 a.m., this router is going to daily test cell 1 and hit save. So I could create a daily test for cell 2, or actually I could just clone this, right? And say cell 2, cellular 2 at 8:10, save. And so now I have cell 1, cell 2, and once again, you could cell 3. So every day, the router is going to run a speed test and then report the performance of each of those cellulars, whether or not they pass or fail of being a 10x1 connection. Really neat feature. The client list allows you to see all the clients in the group, which right now we don't have any clients on it because it's mobile. And then we've already reviewed the settings. So that's the group level options. So now I'm going to go into the device level. So the device level, once again, all the options are going to be white. So I'm going to have a different set of reports that are limited, that are based on this individual device. So I'm going to have this device's reports. So now instead of all my devices, it's going to be my clients. And so instead of connected devices, it's going to be connected clients because it's the clients of this device. My Wi-Fi reports, DPI reports, WAN quality reports is a really nice feature that lets you see, like, here's my cellular 1 and here's my cellular 1 quality. And it even gives you like a little GPS map with a little heat map. So if I go to the last time I traveled, when you're moving, you'll see this GPS with like this little heat maps, and you can see the WAN quality. So you can see cellular 1 and cellular 2. Cellular 2 is a little better than cellular 1. Cellular 3. Cellular 3 is worse. Cellular 4. And cellular 4 is back to better. And you can see the health of these connections on a per minute basis here. So WAN quality reports is really neat to see the performance of your cellular connections over time historically. Bandwidth and usage reports allows you to see how much bandwidth is being consumed. On the device level, you get real time and per minute, and then hourly, daily, and monthly. So I can actually see real time bandwidth utilization, or per minute, which rolls into the day, or I can pull up per hour by megabytes and gigabytes, or I can pull up monthly and see my monthly utilization. Captive portal reports, I'm not going to show anything because I don't have a captive port. Well, now I do, but I didn't before. So it'll show you who's accessing it and how often it's being used. Event log is going to show me my device level, just the device level data. So it's the same event log, but just for this device. Firewall log, which is different than not in the group log. So this is going to show me my firewall logging information. Connection up down history. So it's going to show me a history of just my connection ups and downs. And then error monitor reports. This, if you have error monitor enabled, this will be a whole nother video, but if you have error monitoring enabled, you can pull those reports right here. Speed Fusion, you don't get to configure. You can't configure Speed Fusion on a device level. You can only view the status of Speed Fusion on the device level. So here I can see my Speed Fusion Connect going to Miami, and I can see my office connection with my OSPF information being shared and which WANs are being utilized for that tunnel. Wi-Fi AP, you can manage the radio settings locally, and then I can uncheck this box to manage the SSIDs locally. So if I want to manage SSIDs on a per device level, you have to uncheck the follow group SSID settings. And now I can manage these devices locally. So Wi-Fi management, and see now I'm managing just this device's SSID and radio settings, or I can follow the group settings and manage those SSIDs on the group level. Clients shows you the clients only for the device, and then settings, you'll see a much smaller list of settings. So settings, we have remote web admin with this new quick launch that lets you go into like port forwarding, NAT mappings, bandwidth control, application for QoS. So a couple just really quick options. One of the things I would like is status Speed Fusion right here. That would be a neat option. So if I wanted to add that, I could go to feedback. And I could put settings, say add status Speed Fusion VPN to quick launch. Hit send. And now I've provided feedback to Peplink saying I would like the status Speed Fusion there. InTouch is our out-of-band management platform, which I'll have a whole video on, but it basically allows you to add a new device by either HTTP, HTTPS, SSH, Telnet, RDP, or VNC, or with a USB RS-232. You can also do RS-232 out-of-band management built right into the Peplink environment. Web command line interface allows you to launch the web CLI of the router. So it opens up a little console window, and there it is. And then you have device tools, which allows you to run some basic troubleshooting tools like ping, traceroute, WAN performance analysis server, which I have a whole video on. Turn on remote assistance, reboot, or just reset the factory defaults. So from Remote Web Admin, this allows you to launch the router's web interface and log into the router for managing your WAN settings, setting up SFC Protect, or any other sort of router-based settings that you want to configure. So that, I'm trying to keep this down to under 1 hour. I will do another video that deep dives specific features. So I'll create another video about Speed Fusion configuration, Wi-Fi configuration, advanced security. I'll make a whole firewall video, but this video is just to review the navigation and where to find things in InControl. I hope this video is useful to you, and if so, let us know and we'll create more videos. Thank you very much and have a great day.